All right, good evening. We will call the July 22nd regular meeting of the Downtown Development Authority to order. Roll call, we have John Mesa, Jenna, John, me, so we have a quorum. Mike is running late, Matt and Seth are out of town. So we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance with the flag behind Mr. Mesa. Starting with the approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the June 24th minutes?
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for the Downtown Development Authority for the date of June 24th, 2025.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Really nothing on the chair's report this evening, or not much on the chair's report this evening. We do have some things working in the background. We did license the property, some of the DDA properties across the street for use with a film. So that has been sort of running in the background. Also the revisions to the lot line or the lot line adjustments with our property and the Chamblee Tappan Market property are ongoing. They've submitted initial draft of those revised plats that are going to be reviewed by the city and then go to the county. So that is moving forwards. I think that's really all that we have. You know, the work with the development across the street is ongoing. They are expected to submit their preliminary engineering plans prior to or to meet the deadline set by the PSA, which is August 11th for their preliminary site plan submission to the city. So we anticipate that happening per that schedule. So that is moving forward as well. There's been various engineering activities across the street. They've been doing some drilling on the properties for initial geotechnical analysis of the properties for their site engineering. But really things are, you know, those are the major items right now.
I just caught a little blurb in one sentence or discussion that was happening, and they have filed for their development of community of impact with, or is that coming up? Or?
I can kind of speak to that a little
Sure.
bit. So they are scheduled to meet with the planning department. I think it's going to be either August 7th or 8th to talk about their DCI submission. So that'll have to go through their review process and then added to a design review board meeting and then ultimately to the city council. So it's at the beginning of the process, basically.
Like I said, it wasn't part of the main part of the discussion. Something was said, and oh, by the way,
I think
elaborate.
I think their DCI submission will happen concurrently with their site plan package.
Yes, it will. Yes, the site plan is part of the DCI, so the way the city processes work is the DCI application requirements include a site plan.
Got it.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the financial reports. Jonathan, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, nothing major to report. I did have a few questions. I wasn't here last month and just wanted to clarify to see if y'all knew what these expenses were for. There are a couple of repair and maintenance expenses with the city of Chamblee. One for $15,300 and the other one for $5,100. Can you remind me what those?
Yes, yeah, so, and you may have been absent, but a couple meetings ago, we had brought up the renewal for this year for a maintenance agreement. You all had approved a maintenance agreement for last year that was approved and adopted, but the city had not billed for the year. So all of the 15,000 was for basically all of last year, and then they are going to start billing monthly. For the last 3 months, they did bill together as well, but going forward, they're going to bill monthly. But the newest agreement for 2025 was approved, I believe, 2 meetings ago.
Yeah, I remembered it. I just couldn't remember exactly what it was for. But that's all I have.
Okay. Yeah, we'll need to start looking at, I think we're going to start looking at the loan documents necessary for the purchase of the Pierce property in probably September is when I think that we'll start our process with that. So you and I will need to circle back and make sure that we're aware. Yeah, I think the big issue is making some financial projections to understand where we're going to be, and so, okay. That's the financial report for this month. Old business, we really don't have any old business this month, Ashley. New business, there is discussion of an agreement with Atlanta Commercial Real Estate Brokers. I assume we have
Yes.
a couple representatives with us tonight.
Yes, we do. They're here to kind of talk about their proposal or their idea. We have Harry Rosen and Marky Clary with Atlanta Real Estate Brokers, Commercial Real Estate Brokers. So we invited them to come talk to you all to kind of just talk about what their idea is and how they would like to work with the Downtown Development Authority, and kind of hear from you all and see if you had any questions to get that process going and see how you would like to proceed. So yeah, we can have you at the podium.
Great, thank you for joining us tonight. If you would go ahead and you know, state your names and tell us who you are and tell us
Absolutely.
why you're here.
Thank you for having us as well. My name is Harry Rosen.
Marky Clary.
We work with Atlanta Commercial Real Estate Brokers, a division of Atlanta Communities. I'm sure y'all are all familiar with Atlanta Communities. The commercial division, Atlanta Commercial Real Estate Brokers, has recently been given a lot more attention by the company. They just brought on a commercial broker and are expanding their presence within the Atlanta communities and beyond, I think in Savannah as well, with myself. And we're trying to work with individuals or groups that want to expand their presence within whatever footprint they're looking to expand in. And they're looking at on-market commercial real estate and aren't finding what they want or what they need to expand. And we do a different approach. We are looking at off-market properties and presenting opportunities that align with the goals of these individuals in order to help them with their expansion.
We have identified certain areas in,
Can I plug in to HDMI? Well, maybe?
okay,
Should I try?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's
That's
any
it, start
connectivity.
mirroring.
Okay.
That's okay. We can always turn our screen
Yeah.
if you want.
So we ideally would like to work with you guys on finding and contact, you may not have been in contact with certain property owners. If you've identified properties that you think would be great for the DDA and the city to own and to redevelop, we focus on those off-market properties and connecting the parties to, come to a happy sale.
When we spoke with Matt Sitter a few weeks ago, he mentioned that one of the main things the DDA and the city of Chamblee was looking for was connectivity, and that, y'all had these parcels all around the city, but y'all wanted to bring them together in a cohesive manner. We understand you have the rail trail, you have a few other parcels, you have interest in gaining more parcels throughout the city. I understand you'll have the project across the street as well. We were looking at that as today. We have contacts with individuals who own properties within the city of Chamblee. I represented 5388 Peachtree Boulevard, and that's the Pachulik sisters. They inherited their property. That's a great property that Matt actually contacted me originally on. We have been working with Peter Nealing with Emissary for years now, trying to get him progressed into a manner in which he'll sell. It's going to be a complicated and arduous process, but we hope to get there. And I think there's a lot of properties, if I could show you, that we have identified that we think that would add to the presence of the city within the city of Chamblee itself.
Only thing you might, because you say the city of Chamblee, but this body has a very specific border of what we have purview, am I saying this right? Purview over. So, outside of
Downtown.
that, that would be the city council, which I'm also on, but that would be a different, just a different process. So, and then I don't know, do we have a real estate attorney, a real estate agent that we're engaged with? And how would this be any kind of conflict? Which, I'm excited about it. I'm not trying to burst the bubble. I'm just trying to set the parameters a little bit.
We are currently under contract with Stream that is specific to the city center properties. We are not under contract outside of that. So I think that there definitely would need to be some, I think, parameters identified, and we need to make sure that we do it. I think from my standpoint, I think we're premature in engaging anyone right now because, one, we've got too many irons in the fire with our other projects until all things, if everything goes well, we should be settling, should be selling the properties associated with the downtown city center project roughly a year from now, maybe a little bit less than a year from now, 10 months from now. Until that time, I think we really don't have any working capital, and our ability to really look at properties is pretty limited. But more importantly, I think that I would like to meet with or have a session with the DDA itself to have some goal setting, identify what our future plans should look like, or where we want to be focusing. And also have a similar meeting with council and the mayor to make sure that our vision and their visions are aligned before we start proceeding with exploring the potential purchase of properties. And so it's not to say that we're not interested, it's just that we're at a time right now that we have the opportunity to start thinking about the future, but I think we're not yet in a point that we're really going to be able to take action.
And that, yes. Yes.
Probably, there's nothing going to be ready. Some of these relationships are going to take a long time to.
Jonathan, you've got some thoughts on this? It looks like you were preparing to. add
Yeah,
something?
I would just ask, how do you typically structure these deals? I mean, the way it sounds to me, you're almost a seller's broker, not a buyer's broker. You're going off-market you're asking them if they're willing to sell, and you might have a buyer. So are you typically a dual agent?
So for this instance, we'd like to be acting on behalf of the city of Chamblee and the DDA. We understand that the scope and area in which you guys are looking for is fairly small, and the relationships that are needing to be had take years to facilitate that purchase, as you probably know from the parcels across the street. With the agreement that we have in place that we have presented to you guys, we are wanting to represent you guys on the purchase of the property, so we would be negotiating on your behalf. It does take years to build those relationships, so we would be getting those individuals to a yes, I will sell. Peter Nealing, emissary, I've been talking to him for 3 years now. He's one of the ones that's going to be taking a long time to get to the yes. We've been working on collecting his documents, tax returns, business expenses, and it's just going to take a long time. But we would always look to the seller for commission. But in the instance where we're looking for off-market commercial properties, really, when you have a person who's looking to sell and a person who's looking to buy, a lot of times we get messed up in the crosshairs and we end up not getting paid. So we always like to go to the people who we're actually looking for properties for and have them sign a non-exclusive representation agreement, which would give us the authority to go and, start sniffing around and looking for properties. And, we wouldn't disclose who was looking for the property because we don't want to necessarily tell them that the city wants to purchase the property. I think that would, up the price quite a bit. But we want to start building those relationships, and we want to position ourselves where we could bring you, when a property is ready to purchase, the ability to purchase it at the price that we'll negotiate on your behalf.
Can I just chime in real quick? Just want to make sure everybody is using their microphones, just to make sure that it is pulling up on the recording and the live stream. And I did want to point out that this agreement would be with the Downtown Development Authority. That is separate from the city of Chamblee.
My only other comment was, I tend to agree that it's a little bit premature to be entering into an agreement, but would love to see, any marketing materials you guys have, past representation, et cetera.
Is there any next steps y'all would want to take in us pursuing off-market properties for the DDA in order to present them properties in the next 1, 2, 3 years?
Discussion amongst ourselves, but I think a non-formal, like, this is areas we might be interested in, a wish list kind of situation, and just to have something to, again, occupy you for the next year, year and a half. It's probably going to take that long anyway. I just don't know how appropriate that is, but I mean, I would like to give you some guidance. I just don't know. We may need, like I said, we may need to have an internal conversation on that. So calling for next steps right now might be.
And this is, for me, this is where I am not an expert in the property sale process, and I don't know the best way to evaluate who the best broker would be once we determine that we are in the market for properties, and once we determine what properties we want to be in the market in. I know, I'm familiar with Matt Ilario, who has extensive experience within the city of Chamblee. I've never talked to him about any properties in particular or ever talked to him about. But that's where the standpoint, I think that I would need to get educated on we've got a relationship with Stream. How does Stream operate to know what services they might be able to offer, to consider what Matt, might have to offer, to consider if there are other brokers in the area. I'm not trying to diminish what you have to offer. I'm just trying to acknowledge that my expertise within this area is rather limited, but it does seem like there's a lot of questions that I think the DDA probably needs to explore internally before we're at the point of reaching an agreement with any specific broker.
But I do think, to Jonathan's point, seeing what you do, how you structure it in writing, seeing any previous deals you've done that could kind of help illuminate what this process looks like, what you've done in the past, what you've done for other areas, I think that would be helpful to see as we think about comparing and moving forward. So as a next step action item, I would say what you can show us just on paper that we can kind of review internally would be really, really helpful.
I'll just add, I think we need to be thoughtful about how we present ourselves to the market. And, you know, they said non-exclusive, which is great, but we don't want several brokers out in the marketplace representing us, confusing the market, driving up prices, et cetera. So I think, to your point, Brian, we need to vet y'all's company and all the other opportunities and brokers that are out there that could serve us, and probably decide on one rather than having multiple.
But initiative goes a long way, so this is a good start.
It does at that. I don't think there's an action item for us on this tonight. I do appreciate you coming in and speaking with us and offering your services. I think it is something that we need to talk about further before we're at any point that we can take an action. Thank you very much. All right, the other item on our agenda, filming license agreements.
Yeah,
Ashley, do you want to
yes.
speak to this?
Yeah, so I know you touched on it a little bit in the chair's report, but I just wanted to kind of talk a little more about it to the body as a whole, just to answer any questions that might have came up. I know Chair Brian Ray, he brought up in the minutes or in the meeting last month about the filming across the street, and I've been getting familiar with the processes and everything in my new role. I just recently hit 6 months, but with the film permit stuff, this is something that the DDA hasn't historically done. We've only done 2 so far, so it's kind of like figuring out that best process, and the film companies kind of operate on a different schedule than governments do, unfortunately. So a lot of times they're like, hey, can we use this next week? So it requires a lot of like quick back and forth, but I will gladly going forward would love to CC the entire board, so that way you all are aware and can chime in if for some reason you don't think that we should license out a property. We did contact the attorneys about establishing a standard license agreement. We don't have that in a final form yet, but we can bring that at a future meeting. That way, if you all are interested, could adopt that and a price going forward. That way it wouldn't have to come back and forth to you all. But I did also want to recommend too, if you all are interested in doing a motion tonight to allow the board chair to negotiate fees in the interim until we have that standard license agreement. But I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that and why it has been happening the way it happened, but also wanted to see if anybody had any questions for me.
Would a standardized fee structure, it's on, I don't know what to tell you. Would a,
Yes.
I just have to get very close, got it, okay. Would a standardized fee structure mean that every property is the same fee, or that it's based on the integrity of the property, where it's located, the inconvenience that might be resulted? How does that fee work today?
I don't know if I have the answer to that exactly. So in these past 2 cases, yes, it was dependent on the filming company. So for the first one that the DDA engaged with, it was at the lots around Vintage, and that was just for parking. So that was a little bit simpler, but this one across the street, they were doing filming, and the attorney did advise us that that kind of comes a different scenario, so you have to build in different wording for that. And then there was some conflict with some of the lots that they wanted to use with some environmental testing going on, so they had to build in some non-exclusive wording in there. That way the environmental testers could come on. So it was, a little bit situational in this case, but if we had something standard that we could just offer to film companies when they reach out asking if this lot is involved or available, that's something that we could look at, unless you all would want to take it by a case-by-case basis as well.
I have no problem with it being, used. And I think you could probably, just within the few events that we've had, you probably can come up with, in the event of this and parking only or whatever, you could establish this
Yeah.
fee structure, and, like non-exclusive part, whatever, if you want. And anyway, so I think you can do that. And this is probably not a wheel that's not been invented already. Somebody's
Yes.
probably got a policy somewhere that we can probably mimic too.
Good segue. I think it's a great revenue opportunity. We do this at the Battery all the time. So I have an idea of rates, and I could help establish a rate card type of scenario. Given our location, our proximity to Doraville and everything that's going on up there, to the extent, who knows how long it's going to take Town Center, at least another year. I think it's a great way to drive revenue. And even, we might even want to consider marketing our space for filming. And even just parking. If they need excess parking up the street, we could license our parking. So, we've got the appropriate legal language and protections and risk management in place. I think it just makes sense to sell it.
Yeah, and I did also want to note, just from the city side in general, we have seen an increase in film permit applications. Last year, I think we did about 12 or 13 throughout the entire year. We've already done 14 to this point of this year, and I think a lot of it has to do with Assembly being literally right across the street. So even though we've only had 2 requests specifically for DDA properties, I imagine that won't be the last ones.
Has the city done any marketing on behalf of this to encourage more filming to be done here?
So we have, we include in our annual reports the amount of film permits we get and the kind of productions that have been here. We wait a while because they don't necessarily want you announcing that immediately after filming. But we do include that in our annual reports. And then we also share out the DeKalb Entertainment Commission's portal. They have a location search portal, and they're very heavy in recruitment and marketing of the entire county. So that's kind of been our main arm for filming. So we do kind of, when people are interested in like having their property marketed, to point them to that website because it's already, it already exists and it's more well known.
Thank you.
Yeah, the DeKalb organization, cast a pretty big net, so we use those. We defaulted to them just because of just other resources and other things, but they do cast a pretty big net.
What has the previous rate been for the filming?
Specifically for the DDA properties?
Just ballpark, yeah.
It's been different for each one. It's been, I think it was 2,000 for one and then 5,000 for another, but that one increased to 5,000 because filming was taking place instead of just parking. So, yeah, it's been situational.
That seems nominal. Seems like we should.
Want to do more?
I used Keswick Park before too, down there by the ball fields. I think it was Bad Housewives or something like that. They have several scenes shot in Keswick Park.
Certainly, I think there is an opportunity for the DDA to develop a policy and standard documents towards, being ready for future inquiries. I mean, when we developed the license agreements for parking on the city center property, we knew that there was interest in people using that property, and having that license sort of in our pocket, I think, has made that easier, and we have seen some revenue from the use of that property. I'm a little concerned about having extensive legal documents drafted in advance of future roles, but it may very well be that based on the documents that we've had drafted so far, that those can be modified to create generic documents that can be used in the future. So it does seem like that with fairly limited effort, we should be able to have more preparation available if the question comes up in the future.
I would absolutely authorize the law firm to go ahead and create a form off of this last deal. There are very small changes that would need to be done to the parking license agreement to make this fit filming. So I would just have them go ahead and do it while it's fresh in their minds,
Okay,
and it shouldn't be more than $1,000, I wouldn't think.
okay. Do we want to make a motion to authorize the chair to work with the attorneys towards the development of those agreements and development of a policy, or go ahead?
I have one, we might need to, I know the city has leased some of the, or done some of the properties before. I know we did Keswick Park, I just know that's the one I know about. We might want to see if there's an alignment of the fee schedule between the two. We don't want to have a tremendous difference between the two, so that could still fall under the, but make them align. So basically, if you're renting and you're doing this in Chamblee, whether it's the DDA or the city, if this is the rate, I think there should be some continuity between that. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, just a point of procedure on, assuming we authorize this. I think it'd just be a good idea to just make sure, once it's authorized, that the DDA is aware. So we know it's happening. If anybody questions, like, what's going on your property, we can all say, oh, yeah, we know what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah, it was, what's going on? I think
Yeah.
I started all this, right? So, yeah, just.
No, I think that's a valid point. that
Yeah,
we
and
just need to
I'll
make sure
send
that
like
we
the
ratify.
executed agreements and everything going forward too. That was something on my part I didn't do, so I do apologize for that, but yeah, we'll going forward, definitely. Yeah, it sounds like the motion is authorizing the law firm to create a license agreement. So if you'd like to make a motion for that, you can. We will bring that license agreement back whenever it is done. I would also add to that motion to authorize the chair to negotiate the fees until we have that set in place, just because, like I mentioned before, sometimes the film production company will come and they only have like a week or so to make that decision.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the chair to negotiate, I forgot, sorry.
Negotiate
remember,
filming
Jana?
license agreement fees.
Would you like to make a substitute motion?
I would like to make a substitute motion. We're going to do a take two on that, John. I would like to make a motion that the chair is authorized to negotiate on behalf of the board in matters of filming licensing, as well as working with the attorney to negotiate or to create the contract for us and potential rate cards.
Second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you very much. That motion passes unanimously. We have no public in attendance for public comments this evening.
I want to make a public comment.
You can go ahead.
I might have missed, that was late, but I just want to recognize Katie Sears as being part of the team now. I used to live 2 doors down from Katie Sears, and when she was little. And so I've known her a very, very, very long time. So
Welcome,
we
Katie.
just
We're thrilled to
recently
have you.
discovered that connection, but I have known her for a very long time. So that's my comment.
Very good. We have no executive session, no requirement for the executive session this evening that I am aware. And with that, we have nothing further. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second. You did that so well, John.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, and enjoy your evening.